Good evening. It's approximately 7:03, and I declare this session of the Tualatin Valley Water District Board of Commissioners to be in order. First item on the agenda tonight is reports by the Chief Executive Officer and management staff.
Good evening, President Burke, members of the board. First of all, happy first full day of spring. So typically, as you know, we start off with a safety minute and then include maybe a department report. We're going to change things up a little bit this evening. So we're going to forego the usual safety minute and department report. Instead, we this evening have the Tech 5 Lego Robotics team. They're going to provide a summary of a project that they've been working on that has a great deal of relevance to TVWD, and we've been supporting it through Frank Reed of our communications team. So take it away, Tech 5.
This year's first LEGO League theme was hydrodynamics. Our project is called Shower Tech Wise, and we're the Tech 5 LEGO team from Findlay Elementary, and we're all 5th graders. In our households, water cools down overnight, and in the morning it becomes cold water. And we have to wait for all that cold water to go down the drain. An average family of 4 wastes 9 gallons a day for only one shower head. According to EPA and NRDC, the USA alone wastes 400 billion gallons of water. If we can save this much water, it will not only impact water preservation, it will also impact the environment and energy resources.
We have looked into the existing solutions. One of the existing solutions is TVWD. TVWD is a phone-based app that controls when the water should come out. This saves time, but not water. Another solution is an electric water heater thermostat. It sets the desired temperature for the water heater, but again, it doesn't save the cold water in the pipes. Along with these solutions, another one is Emax. It is a small satellite boiler that can be installed in every bathroom. This can only work in new construction homes.
We checked out different valves that control the flow of water based on the temperature of the water. One of the sensor valves, called Premier, was selected for a demo. When hot water comes into the valve, it expands. So the water will rise up and go to the shower head. And when the cold water comes, the valve will contract, and so the water can go through and go back to the boiler. This happens very quickly in really few seconds. This valve is made out of an alloy of a nickel and titanium. The valve we selected costs $60 and is commercially available. We can implement it into new construction homes and existing homes. For new construction homes, we added a third pipe. Our third pipe will take the water from the cold water in the hot water inlet and put it back to the boiler, instead of putting it back into the cold water inlet using only the sensor valve. For existing homes, we are not adding the additional third pipe, and for new construction homes, we will be using the third pipe to recirculate the water back to the boiler. We presented our solution to many experts and companies. We presented our solution to Mr. Randy Isaac and Mr. Matt Lichenfields, who are energy resource managers from the Beaverton School District. We also presented our solution to Mr. James Baker, who is an energy and technology teacher at the Health and Science Options School. And we presented our solution to the George Moreland Company and the plumbing professor, Mr. Delton, who tried to implement this in his model home. And we presenting this to Ankdal Plumbing, who gave us feedback to make a new construction.
And we would like to show our demo that we have.
So right now, Bhumi is pouring the hot water into the pipes. And you'll notice that the water is piling up right here because there's a sensor in this valve. It's a sensor valve and it's expanding. So it's like a barricade. It won't let the hot water go through. It's sensing that the water is hot and it's not going through here into that cup. And it'll go up a little bit. And this is a seat, and it'll go all the way up into the shower head and come out.
There was no hot water collected.
So Nafia is pouring the cold water into the pipes. Now the sensor valve is contracting, which means it's getting smaller because it senses the cold water. That's why the cold water will go through the pipes.
This is all the cold water collected.
Thank you for watching.
Any questions?
How did you come up with the idea for this?
Well, we based this on the FLL team, so the theme was hydrodynamics, and we noticed that a lot of water was getting wasted when we took a shower, right? And that was a big problem universally.
And also, we've all experienced this every morning. So and then we noticed that we were just waiting, and then we knew all that water was just not being used for anything.
Yeah, this is very interesting. You've done a good job.
Thank you.
Guess I could turn right in the water until it gets hot for so long.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is a way to do it now.
That's right, that's right.
Yeah, and the thing is, it'll take the same amount of time, but the water won't go down and get wasted.
Yeah, you girls should file a patent. You could all get rich. This is interesting work, and I think that it's very important that young people, in particular, think outside of the box, come up with new solutions for common problems, and this is a common problem. And like Commissioner Doan said, we're in the habit of doing it so much that we don't really think about it as a problem. So you've brought new thinking to this, and you've brought a solution, and you should all be very proud. You should be congratulated. And I'm not kidding about patenting the idea if you can.
Thank you, yeah.
Yeah.
So I see that there is a question here that you would like to get some help to set up a trial with TVWD,
Yes.
and I will defer to staff on that to see if that's,
And actually, I'm going to bring Frank into the conversation. Frank, you've been talking with them, so help us out here.
Yeah, first of all, I would like to say thank you to Lordy Wetzel over there, who's the state coordinator for the First Lego League and the Tech 5 and everybody else. So we got to work with them quite a bit. So I was going to actually refer them to our conservation coordinator and start there.
Cool.
We will work on that. Great. Thank you very much, Tech 5 team. Awesome job, and thank you for coming in. Appreciate that.
Thank you. Excellent work.
So I will keep us moving. Just a few reminders and then a little bit of an extended report on my part this evening, if you don't mind. First of all, a reminder that we have a scheduled joint meeting with the board of the West Slope Water District on Monday, April 2nd, 6 p.m. here at the district headquarters. As we discussed in our work session earlier this month, Portland is proposing very dramatic rate increases over the next 5 years that will hit hard for folks like the West Slope Water District as well as Valley View Water District. And so as a result, the West Slope Board is especially interested in the work that TVWD has been doing over the last several years to evaluate supply options. And so one of the things we're going to do is have a series of presentations talking about supply options when we have the joint meeting with West Slope. And any feedback that you can provide in terms of the process that we've used or the decisions that we've made in terms of supply planning would be greatly appreciated.
What time is that meeting?
6 p.m. on Monday the 2nd.
6 p.m.
Changing gears, talking a little bit about the Willamette intake facilities. Also at the March work session, I had explained that the city of Wilsonville had delayed signing the Willamette intake facilities intergovernmental agreement because of a last-minute concern that they had identified about the allocation of spaces in the building for future pumps. I'm pleased to report this evening that Clark and Dave and I have been working with Wilsonville, and we've successfully resolved their concern. And last Monday, the Wilsonville City Council approved to proceed and enter into the Willamette Intake Facilities IGA. And so we've started the signature process, and in fact, after this meeting, Commissioner Burke, if we could get your signatures, that would be great, and we will have I don't know. It's here. It's right here. At any rate, so we'll get your signature, and we will have an executed Willamette Intake Facilities intergovernmental agreement, as well as all of the other related agreements with Wilsonville that include things like the ground lease and an amendment to our original 2000 Accord agreement for the construction of the treatment plant. So this is a major, major milestone moving forward. Talk a little bit about my schedule. I think I've tried to keep you in the loop. I am going to be out of the office for about a month in April. My last day here at work, in fact, will be April 2nd for the joint meeting with Westlope. I will actually email you my coverage schedule. The staff has been working on assigning those responsibilities so that while I'm gone, I'm sure the service will actually improve, and things will actually step up, and then I'll have to up the game when I get back. But I appreciate the flexibility and look forward to getting back probably around May 1st. Since I won't be at the board's work session in April, which would be on April 3rd, I wanted to take just a couple of minutes and talk about what I would have talked about at that meeting, which is the status of our continued progress on the CEO goals and the, essentially the district initiatives and key projects that the board had established for this current biennium. Typically, we would go through a fairly thorough presentation. I'm going to do a very annotated version this evening because the material is in your packet. You've seen this kind of information before. And so with that, really what I want to point out is that we're continuing to make great progress on the strategic initiatives that you've established for the organization. That's important because that becomes the basis of your evaluation of my performance, and that's important to me. We have really two categories of those performance indicators. One are what we call district initiatives that are really transformational and apply to basically all portions of the district. And then we have key projects that are essential things that need to happen, but they generally are focused on one department or one portion of the district. So here you see that we're making great progress. This is the red, yellow, green chart that we've used consistently. And what you see that on the district initiatives, the overarching strategic goals, we're making great progress and in fact have completed initiative number 4, which is an evaluation of the organizational staffing requirements. And then looking at the key projects, they're generally all on track with the exception of, first of all, a legislative strategy related to right-of-way fees, which we currently have on hold pending potentially the 2019 legislative session. And then improving project management, which at this point, we think we're doing just fine. The question is, can we improve it? Of course we can. It's just a matter of priorities. Otherwise, all of these key projects are more or less on track. The other thing I wanted to mention related to this is, as part of these projects, one of the things that we've committed to is taking a look at our communications program. And so we have given a lot of thought to this question of branding. When we talked probably 6 months ago, we had begun to develop a proposal related to branding. And so probably at the May work session, and again, we're still trying to schedule it, Andrea is going to come back in May and at the work session talk about potential branding strategies. And so I wanted to let you know that we haven't lost sight of the importance of the communication piece and the branding piece, and we'll plan to come back with probably a refined strategy related to branding in May. As we evaluated our performance and looked at the progress on these key indicators and district initiatives, one of the things that became clear is we have a very, very ambitious agenda and we have an awful lot of things on our plate. And so a little over a month ago, the management team for the district got together and really spent some time evaluating what are our highest priorities, what are the things that we really need to accomplish in the balance of the current biennium. So we really focused on what do we have to get done over the next 18 months, not especially to resolve the issues in our conversation, but just simply identify what our priorities are. We talked about how we frame the issues and what are we trying to accomplish as an organization. We thought about the planning initiatives. We talked about the specific topics and issues and how we can work more efficiently as a team. We went through a prioritization process. Being a bunch of engineers and economists, we basically had a very quantitative process in terms of how we evaluated them. That should come as no surprise. There were massive spreadsheets involved, and we all had a great time putting it together. I would particularly acknowledge the work by Joe Healy, who has really helped carry the heavy load here. This is what we came up with. We came up with 8 what we are calling priorities for the balance of the 2017-19 biennium. First of all is implementing the Beaverton Service Area Agreement. Second is retooling our meter-to-cash operations and setting the foundation for the customer information system. Third is continuing to work towards having a revenue bond debt program. Fourth is to negotiate the Willamette Water Supply System Agreement with Hillsborough and Beaverton. And again, this is truly the operating agreement for the new supply system, which is beyond just the intake. The fifth initiative or priority was to update the computerized maintenance management system, otherwise known as CityWorks. The sixth was to complete the Willamette Water Supply System Managing Agency Business Plan. This is an area that Dave Krask has been working hard on. But again, as the managing agency for the new supply system, we have some pieces that we need to put in place, and you'll hear a little bit more about that later. Seventh is developing water supply strategies. As we bring on the Willamette source of supply in 2026, we have some very interesting opportunities to actually optimize how we use all of our supplies, the Joint Water Commission supply, the Portland supply, the Willamette supply, and the ASR system. And we need to start doing the groundwork over the next few years to make sure that we can optimize those systems to minimize our overall long-term operating costs. And last but not least is the ratepayer communication strategy and just making sure that the ratepayers know who we are and the benefits that they provide from the service that we deliver. So those are the 8 priorities. Those are the things that staff is going to be focusing on. Again, we didn't provide a lot of time for discussion with the board of these because the fact of the matter is these are the same things that show up in the district initiatives and key projects, but we've just simply sharpened the focus to say we are committed to working hard to make sure that we complete these specific priorities or at least get them well underway in the current biennium. So with that, I would be happy to field questions, comments, concerns related to the 8 priorities or anything else in the management staff report this evening.
Any comments or questions? Okay. No, you've kept us informed into the process, so
Very good.
no questions. All right, thank you very much.
If not, that concludes the staff report this evening.
Okay, thank you very much. Next item is Commissioner Communications, reports of meetings attended. I'll begin. Had 3 meetings to report this month. Tonight's board meeting, the joint meeting we had with the City of Hillsborough representatives, and the TVWD workshop on the 6th of March. And I guess for no particular reason, I'll go to my right and circle around. Commissioner Bagnall.
I had several meetings on the 6th, the board work session where we discussed the sustainability program and board policies. On the 9th of March, I had a finance committee meeting where we discussed the CIS, Customer Information System, and our relationship with the billing system and clean water services and what our options are for that. Then I had a meeting on the 14th to discuss the comments on the Joint Water Commission strategic plan. And also on the 14th, we had our joint meeting with the Hillsborough Utilities Commission. And then, of course, tonight's regular board meeting.
Commissioner Schmidt.
I attended the work session on the 6th where we talked about sustainability, supplemental budget, and policies. On the 14th, I also attended the joint Walton Valley Water District Hillsborough Utility Commission meeting where our staff gave a Willamette project update. And yesterday, the 20th, I had a meeting with Mark, Carey, and Clark discussing the up-and-coming JWC meeting and tonight's regular board.
Thank you. Commissioner Doan.
Yes, I have the work session, the supply meeting to discuss the JWC issues, the meeting with the Hillsborough Utility Board, and tonight's meeting. Plus, on March 8th, I attended a meeting of the Aloha Business Association.
Okay.
Commissioner Duggan.
4 meetings to report this month. The work session on the 6th, the Finance Committee meeting that Commissioner Bagnall detailed on the 9th, our joint TVWD Hillsborough meeting on the 14th, and then tonight's meeting. And that's it.
Okay, very good. Are there any topics to be raised by commissioners this month? Okay, there are none. This is the time of the meeting where we usually entertain public comment, but to my knowledge, there is no request for public comment tonight. And so we will go to the next item on the agenda. And that is that we will recess the current meeting and we will convene a public hearing. We are now in a public hearing to consider adopting resolution number 0918, a resolution adopting a supplemental budget for the 2017 through 19 biennium that establishes the Willamette Intake Facilities Fund and authorize appropriations in the WIF, Willamette Intake Facility, and general funds. Staff report, please.
So a very quick introduction. During my review of strategic initiatives and priorities, I mentioned that we are becoming the managing agency for the Willamette Intake Facilities and related work. Obviously, we need to establish a budget for to assume those responsibilities. And so, Paul, are you going to start? Go direct to Todd to talk about the proposed supplemental budget for the Willamette Intake Facilities. Todd.
Great. Thank you, Mark. Good evening, President Burke and Commissioners. Todd Burton with the district staff and the district budget officer. This is a presentation that is very much the same as what we reviewed with you at the March 6th work session. Before you tonight is a proposed resolution 0918 that establishes through a supplemental budget action, establishes the Willamette Intake Facilities Funds and makes appropriations for the current 2017-19 biennium. Very briefly, the overview of the presentation is, again, to just a quick callback on where we are with the Willamette Intake Facilities Commission and the district's role, the supplemental budget process that's part of local budget law, the objectives for tonight's budget action, as well as the details and the staff recommendation. Last month, on February 21st at your regular board meeting, the board adopted Ordinance 0118, which adopted the Willamette Intake Facilities, or WIF, intergovernmental agreement, which authorized the CEO to execute that agreement. Since that time, as Mark very recently reported this evening, TVWD and the 5 partner cities are in process of adopting that agreement. The commission itself will be governed by a 6-member governing board, and very importantly, TVWD has been designated as the managing agency. Very similar to the relationship we might consider what Hillsborough has with the Joint Water Commission, a little similar to what we do currently with the Willamette River Water Coalition. TVWD's role with the WIF is very broad, but in a nutshell, as a member of the WIF, we will pay dues, we will participate in their governance, and we will, as their managing agency, execute the WIF projects. On the financial side, we will adopt and manage the budget, and we will do that consistent with Oregon local budget law. We will provide accounting and financial reporting services, and we will manage audit services and other financial needs of the commission. We've been through this many times before with the board in terms of amending our budget during a budget year, and that's through a supplemental budget process. Because we're establishing a new fund, the notice requirements were a little different than what we would normally do with a supplemental budget action, and we actually published a notice of tonight's hearing with the details of the action in the Oregonian. On the right side there is the icon of the notice that was published on the 16th. One thing that's very important when we adopt a supplemental budget is that the resources that are applied and the requirements or the appropriations balance each other. Passing the proposed resolution tonight, 0918, would implement the supplemental budget. One other thing to point out, the Citizen Budget Committee is not required during a supplemental budget process. although we certainly keep them informed. Key budget objectives for this particular action. The first is to really establish a fund within the district's budget structure so we can begin to execute the activities of the WIF. The proposed resolution also would be effective for this current 2017-19 biennium. And as discussed at the March 6th work session, staff has proposed really a two-step process. Tonight's action will establish the fund and appropriate some resources so the district staff can begin administration of the WIF. Later this fall, we will be coming back to the board for a second supplemental budget, which will request appropriation of capital outlay resources for those portions of the WIF that belong to the 6 partners. That action is pending completion of preliminary design of intake upgrades as well as the project agreements with the 5 other partners. So tonight, the supplemental budget action will fund administration of the WIF. That work will be performed under the management of Dave Kraska, the Water Supply Program Director, and he will deploy staff as needed, both from the Water Supply Program, the Willamette Water Supply Program, as well as district staff here at the district headquarters. Primary activities include just general administration, records management, communication and public outreach, annual work plan, budget development, insurance, and very importantly, support to both the WIF governing board and the 3 staff committees on management, operations, and finance. Later this fall, as mentioned, we plan to take another supplemental budget, which will appropriate resources for the capital portion of the WIF projects. Again, pending work on the project agreements with the partners. That work includes permitting, capital projects management, intake screens of the current upgrades of intake screens and seismic upgrades of the current facilities. It's also important to note that many of those resources for the capital outlay are already budgeted in the district's budget in the Willamette Water Supply Program Fund that are now being supported by both this district and the city of Hillsborough. Those resources that belong to all 6 partners will be moved over to the new WIF fund, and we will true up the ownership shares of each of those. So each of the 4 new partners coming into the WIF will be reimbursing both the district and the city of Hillsborough for resources already spent on these WIF projects. So the proposed budget, supplemental budget before you tonight, establishes the new Willamette Intake Facilities Fund, Fund 44. That will track the WIF partners' ownership in this joint venture. On the resource side, we will the proposed resolution recognizes dues that will be paid by all 6 partners. On the general fund, we will also recognize resources back to the district for the repayment of our staff time as well as our overhead to provide the services as a managing agency. On the requirement side, the proposed resolution allocates resources in the materials and services category for those activities I described for administration of the WIF. In addition, the district, as a member of the WIF, will also pay dues, so the proposed supplemental budget also appropriates a small amount, or some money for the district to pay its share of the dues. So this is what it looks like, what we would put into the budget structure upon approval of the proposed resolution. Partner dues in the amount of $109,607 and an equal amount of materials and services expenses for the biennium. This number was based on a joint management and finance committee of the WIF partners back in February. So this is our starting point to seed the WIF fund. And then on the general fund side, we want to recognize the payments of those dues back to the district for our staffing services and our overhead in the amount of about $77,000. Our share of the WIF dues for the biennium is $43,700. There is a little bit of extra money that will be coming in that will become go to the bottom line for the general fund and available to the district for future appropriations and future budgets. So the staff recommendation to the board is to consider adoption of 0918, a resolution adopting the supplemental budget for the 2017-19 biennium that establishes the WIF fund and authorizes appropriations in the WIF and general funds. That completes my staff report. I'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Any questions for Todd? Okay. All right, thank you very much. Okay, we are in a hearing. I don't believe there is anyone to testify in support or in opposition to this. So with that, I'm now going to close the hearing without objection. Hearing is now closed. And at this point, I'll entertain a motion and a second to adopt resolution number 09-18, a resolution adopting a supplemental budget for the 2017-19 biennium that establishes the Willamette Intake Facilities Fund and will authorize appropriations in the WIF and general funds.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Doan,
And I second.
seconded by Commissioner Bagnell. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, nay. Okay, the ayes have it 5-0. The motion passes. And so at this point, I will close the hearing and reconvene the regular meeting. And the next item of business in the regular meeting is the consent agenda. They may be considered routine and enacted in one motion unless it is separated out, if any commissioner should wish to do that. There are two items on the consent agenda tonight. One, to approve the February 21st, 2018 regular meeting minutes and approve the March 6th, 2018 work session minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I so move.
Commissioner Schmidt moves.
I'll second.
Commissioner Duggan seconds. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The consent agenda is adopted. This brings us to the business agenda. Let's see, first item on the agenda is to consider adopting resolution number 10-18, a resolution approving an intergovernmental agreement for temporary and emergency water supply between Tualatin Valley Water District, the City of Hillsborough, and the City of Tigard.
So as we move forward with the program over the last couple of years, you keep hearing about partnership projects and opportunity projects. And this is just one more partnership opportunity, and I'll have Dave give the staff report.
Thank you, Mark. Good evening, President Burke, Commissioners. I have a pretty brief presentation of a fairly simple IGA, a lot more straightforward than the WIF IGA that Todd just presented to you. I'm going to press that one. We'll start off about where we're located on this particular IGA. We're talking about PLM 5.1, which is the part of our PLM 5 project, or our Shoals Area Pipeline Project, located here on our overall program map, right around in the middle of the overall program. Zooming in there a bit, the PLM 5.1 project is the southernmost portion of the PLM 5 project on Roy Rogers Road in between Shoals Ferry Road and Beef Bend Road. On the background of this project, it is a partnership project between us and Washington County. Washington County has their Roy Rogers Road project. Oh, it's a mouthful. They're expanding that portion of Roy Rogers Road, and right in the area that we need to construct our pipeline. So we're working together with them to get our pipeline in there at the same time. It's about 7,000 feet over a 66-inch pipeline, so a good chunk of it. And what we need, once that pipeline is installed, is water for testing the pipeline and also for maintaining it for the duration of time that it'll be in place until it's put into service in 2026. The Tigard water system is right next door. It's the closest potable water supply that we can find that's available for exactly this purpose. And what we need is a 6-inch connection to that system in order to serve our purposes for the flushing and maintenance of the pipeline and for testing it. Tigard is interested in a 12-inch connection because in the future they would like to have an emergency supply connection to the Willamette Water Supply Program or the Willamette Supply System. And so they would like it sized at 12 inches in diameter. This is Exhibit A-1, part of the agenda packet. Over on the left-hand side here is the WWSP pipeline, PLM 5.1, that will be constructed as part of the Roy Rogers Road project. And then we have our 12-inch pipeline that would cross Roy Rogers Road over to Friendly Lane in Tigard. That'll actually end in a court. Right now it tees into Roy Rogers Road, but that won't be that way any longer. So a 12-inch pipeline that would loop back and then connect into an existing 18-inch diameter pipeline that's part of the Tigard water system. So during the course of the time that we need it for our testing purposes and our services, we would take water out of the Tigard system, flow through this connection into our pipeline. Someday in the future, with these facilities, in such a case as an emergency, we could flow in the opposite direction, supplying emergency water to Tigard. That's the concept. So the summary of the IGA that's at issue here is that this connection enables, or this IGA enables the connection to and water supply from the Tigard water system for testing and maintenance, and that's important. It's only water in one direction. It's water from Tigard into our system is what's allowed in this IGA. It defines the cost split. What we would be doing is we'd be paying for 68% of it, and that's the estimated cost for constructing the 6-inch diameter connection. Expanding it to 12 inches in diameter increases the cost by 32%, and that amount would be covered by the City of Tigard. It defines operation protocols so that we could accept the water without negatively impacting operations of the Tigard system. It covers payment for the water used, and it also, again, clarifies that the operation of a future emergency connection would require a separate intergovernmental agreement. And so with that, appreciate you considering adoption of Resolution 10-18 for approving an intergovernmental agreement for a temporary and emergency water supply between TVWD, City of Hillsborough, and the City of Tigard. Be glad to take any questions.
So I do have a question. Has Tigard asked for any sort of preliminary term sheet or memo or anything like that that gives them some notion of how the payment for emergency water agreement would be structured?
No, not at all. That would be the subject of a future emergency supply agreement.
But they're confident enough they can reach agreement with us on the cost of that emergency water that they're willing to pay 32% to upsize?
Correct, yes.
Well, I guess that's nice.
Yes.
Any other questions?
I assume we'll have all the appropriate backflow things. Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Anything else? Okay.
I'll move adoption of Resolution 10-18.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second, Commissioner Duggan, moved by Commissioner Doan. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. Motion passes 5-0. Next item, consider adopting resolution number 1118, a resolution approving a cultural resources programmatic agreement between the Tualatin Valley Water District, City of Hillsborough, United States Army Corps of Engineers, and the State of Oregon. I don't think I've ever used the word programmatic before, so first time.
Or problematic.
Yeah, it was obviously new to me, so.
It's an evening of firsts.
That's right.
I'm just going to let Dave keep going. I'm not even going to try.
Keep going, Dave,
to
you're on
cover
a
this one.
roll.
So we're going to learn about programmatic agreements tonight. Yeah, very important term. It's a little bit different from an intergovernmental agreement. This is a form of an intergovernmental agreement, but this is actually, it's a key point to this particular agreement. So a little bit of background. So what is it that we're doing? Well, we're digging up a lot of dirt, or what's stated here is the construction of the Willamette water supply system will entail a lot of ground disturbing activities. And so as you can imagine, with the installation of our pipeline, treatment plant, reservoir, other related facilities, we're going to be moving a lot of soil. And along with that, we are required and we are following through on coordinating with the various resource agencies to make sure that we mitigate or minimize, mitigate, avoid, mitigate, or minimize adverse impacts to cultural and historic resources and properties. So the resource agencies that we're working with are U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, the State of Oregon through SHPO, the State Historic Preservation Office, and the affected tribes, which are the Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde, Warm Springs, and Siletz. This programmatic agreement enables the WWSP to continue to advance the field survey work while it's still in progress. And so let me hang on that particular bullet there for a second. So programmatic, what we're looking for there, it's program-wide. So this isn't just a project specific. This is a program-wide agreement that we're trying to strike here. And the other key point here is that we're able to reach this agreement, reach this point of compliance essentially between all the parties while we're still in the process of doing these surveys. Alternatively, if we were required to do these surveys before reaching the agreement, we would need a lot more schedule and it would affect our schedule significantly. So this is actually a significant help to us in terms of reaching our schedule goals, having this programmatic agreement and having this allowance to perform this work as we go along. So the summary of the agreement is, as I mentioned, it's an intergovernmental agreement between us, Hillsborough, the Corps, and the State Historic Preservation Offices. The tribes are part of the agreement, but they rarely sign programmatic agreements. We work through them as essentially a consultation agreement through the Army Corps. This provides for us for permitting, designing, and constructing the program in compliance with the National Historic Preservation Act. And through this agreement, there's all the stipulations in there that are required of us in order to meet all of those requirements in the Act. We expect at this time that there may still be some revisions to the particular agreement, programmatic agreement that you're looking at right now. That's why when you look at it, it still says draft on it. There are still some points out there that we may need to address, but we expect them to be extremely minor, administrative in nature. So with that, recommend considering adoption of Resolution 11-18 for approving this Cultural Resources Programmatic Agreement. And the two key points in the resolution are that this obviously authorizes the CEO to execute the agreement, and it also enables the CEO to agree to certain administrative minor changes that may result or may be required of the agreement before its ultimate execution. And with that, I'd be glad to take any questions.
I have a question.
Yes.
As unlikely as it might be, would this programmatic agreement cover situations where, let's say, they discovered a rare dinosaur fossil, or maybe the monolith, like in Space Odyssey 2001, something like that?
If only we were so lucky. Yes, it absolutely does cover that, and exactly what we need to do if such things are discovered.
Okay. All right. Any other questions?
Historically, I believe the native peoples had a number of encampment sites that have been part of the historic record of the Washington County and Tualatin Valley, Nehalem, and just the general area. And I know that there have been maps of where some of those encampment sites have been located, like around Wapato Lake out south of Forest Grove. Historically, has there been any check, or has there been any look in to see if our alignment may be in one of those areas where there could be an historic encampment location?
Yes, there has. And that was actually part of some of the preliminary engineering work that was done a couple of years ago. And some of the alignments that were considered early on, we found out that we'd be coming across some of those, and some of that information is not widely distributed, and so once we were aware of that, we steered clear of those areas. The alignment that's been selected now, I think, minimizes those impacts, minimizes those opportunities, but I think we still anticipate there could still be some that we'll come across, hopefully not as significant as some of those others, but we have a process now for handling them if we do come across them.
Great. Thank you.
Welcome.
Well, hopefully we won't inadvertently dig up things that are buried, like, Native American relics or monoliths or Kevin Spacey's career or whatever else might be underground. So thank you very much. Okay.
I'll move the adoption of resolution. It's like all the ones with R's you hit earlier today. The adoption of Resolution 11-18.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Commissioner Bagnall seconds it. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, nay. Okay, passes 5-0. I am glad that we do look out for those things. All kidding aside, I think it's good that we watch out for these things. Okay, that brings us to the last item of business for the evening, to consider resolution number 12-18, a resolution establishing updated backflow prevention and cross-connection control program requirements.
So if you'll recall, at the March work session, we spent a fair amount of time talking about potential changes to the district's existing cross-connection control program. And so this evening, Joel Carey of our water quality team is here to make specific proposal.
Good evening, Commissioners, President Burke. I am not going to have a PowerPoint tonight. I figured I would have an oral presentation instead. If in the future you want more PowerPoints, please let us know. We can always make that accommodation.
No. The world does not have enough PowerPoint decks.
Yes.
Okay.
Remember that for future use. And good segue from the last one. Commissioner Doan made reference to backflows. So for those in the viewing audience and the public in general, tonight will be about backflow for this last section. So a little bit of background about TVWD's cross-connection and control program. As we're all aware, this is an important part of our water quality protection efforts. Obviously, we put high-quality drinking water in our system. We would not want to stop that protection as it gets delivered to our customers. So the point of this program is to make sure that we prevent backflow of non-potable water supplies, things that fall in the category of chemicals from commercial facilities, irrigation systems, et cetera, from entering our system. TVWD requires the test report information from the backflow assembly to be submitted to us at least annually. And as you're also aware, beginning in 2017, we began rolling out some new software that allowed us to actually accept these test reports in electronic format. That's been a very successful implementation so far. To date, we've had over 10,000 backflow assemblies entered through the software. In fact, over the last couple of months, it's probably increased by another several thousand. So again, this has been a very successful rollout. So for tonight, we want to talk about the resolution updates. There's a few key highlights in the resolution that we wanted to note, and I'll just go through those very briefly right here. So obviously, like we just talked about, the biggest one would be the requirement to have all of these test reports entered into our system in the electronic format that the district requires. That obviously makes a substantial benefit for the district as far as us gathering this data and reduction in staff time. The other notable update in our resolution tonight is enhancement around bulk water. I know we've all actually met in the past about how we do our best to try and protect the water system when we allow access through hydrants. So there's some minor adoption in that resolution that will enhance that effort as well, making it clear what we require from the contractors/vendors who actually require access to the water through those means. And then the last component was actually a substantial simplification of our tester standards. As you recall, that was something the board adopted several years ago. The tester standards were really designed to require testers operating within TVWD's jurisdiction to abide by a certain set of rules. With this new application, it actually there's really no way that they cannot do the appropriate testing methods because the software itself will not accept the test reports unless they are done in the specific order and format down to the very values present in a backflow test. So it really does do a lot of value for the community at large, and again, simplifies those standards that we require testers to work with within our jurisdiction. Again, just to kind of summarize that, it's better utilization of district resources. It improves our records and data management. It improves water quality protection efforts overall. Obviously, that's the goal of our group. And importantly, it continues our regional leadership role for cross-connection. We feel like the district has generally been a leader in this area. This is us taking the next step and rolling out something that, again, will really provide some enhancement. So tonight, the staff are recommending that the board consider adoption of this resolution. In summary, I think this just strengthens the current program. And as being somewhat of a car aficionado, I liken it to a tune-up to the resolution. So it will run smoother and, again, just more efficiently overall. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions and answer any concerns you may have.
Questions for the good man? No? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh, I just wanted to thank staff for, in the work session that we had earlier in the month, going over this program. I think the modifications are well thought through, and so thank you for bringing this to us.
Thank you.
I also want to encourage the district staff to continue programs like the Gold program, and where me as a consumer don't have to worry about anything. Somebody else takes care of all of this. Unlike the people who come and fertilize the trees and stuff like that require interaction, this just happens, and I really appreciate that.
With every notice that goes out, we generally get about 50 to 100 different customers calling us to sign up for the program. So yeah, during the next update, I'm always happy to show graphs in PowerPoint that show the increasing trend. So those are usually very useful. So yes, thank you. We appreciate it too.
You know, in the book Steve Jobs, I've been reading the book Steve Jobs, and he hated PowerPoints too. He would fire employees that use PowerPoints. But I say that in jest because they are a necessary business tool.
I also want to say that I got a nice thank you postcard from the Water District thanking me for being a gold plan customer, which I thought was pretty cool. Nobody's ever thanked me for being a customer of anything before, but thank you.
And partial credit goes to our communication staff for that as well. So team effort. So thank you.
I think we need a recommendation and to adopt a resolution modification, so.
I thought we have that. Do we? We have that, don't we? No.
No.
Would you like to make a recommendation?
I recommend that you consider adoption of this rule, so yes.
Okay. Very good. It has been so recommended. Thank you very much.
So moved.
Yep. Second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Schmidt. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, nay. Passes 5-0. Very good. That is the end of the road for tonight. So without objection, I will adjourn this meeting. Good job, everyone. Thanks to staff, board members, and
I'd just like to add a comment. Could we send a thank you card to the people who did the demonstration here today?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Not a problem. You bet.
yeah. And thank you to Tualatin Valley Cable Access. Have a good night, everyone.